it was a concern for me, as I told before, in the first 200 cases. But with those kinds of modifications, and there is a different modification that I have done. I didn't refer about that. I decided in a time, maybe 2005, 14, no, 13, it is the real date. I decided to do that. Well, we have put a lot of bands. I've put more than 1,000 bands before, and I removed a lot of bands. I've done a lot of conversions to Roux-en-Y, a big number of cases. And when I began to convert to OAGB, I had reflux in the revisional cases after band and after sleeve. Part of the 8 cases were revisional. So I decided all the revisional cases to do the OAGB with the Roux-en-Y diversion as a first primary surgery. If a patient has a hiatal hernia or previous reflux or an esophagitis, I began performing the OAGB like before, but with a Roux-en-Y diversion in order to avoid the risk of reflux in the dangerous patients for that. And with that, I excluded the more dangerous patients from the complete set of patients. So, and I called that operation the diverted OAGB, as you know. That was very polemic because mainly the Americans don't accept the name OAGB, and I published the outcomes in 2019 with the name long pouch gastric bypass. People say that when we do that in revisional surgery with the bile reflux, the 8 cases were converted to with the Roux-en-Y diversion or conversion to Roux-en-Y. It is not a Roux-en-Y because it is a Roux-en-Y with 200 or 250 biliopancreatic lymph. No, that's not a Roux-en-Y usually. With a long pouch, that's not a Roux-en-Y. It's a different operation. That was the concept, but it's not very important. It's a Roux-en-Y configuration for sure, and it is in certain way established diverted OAGB. But I removed the dangerous patients for the OAGB. So in the first 200, I had eight cases, and all over the years, I had 6 cases only. What I mean, it's not a problem nowadays. It's very, very rare to have a patient with a reflux, with a bile reflux, with those modifications in the technique. So I do completely agree with Rutledge and other surgeons like Dr. Mario Musella, my friend, that we need to teach the MGB technique, OAGB technique properly, because if we do it properly, the bile reflux is not a problem. Maybe 1-2% of the patients will have it, very, very few patients. The same with marginal ulcer, but marginal ulcer is more tricky. It's not a technical problem only, it can be. I think that we should avoid the non-absorbable material in the anastomosis as much as we can. I close the anastomosis with Vicryl, for instance. I try to put the anti-reflux stitches with Vicryl also, not with silk as I was doing before. We need to avoid the ischemia of the tissues, but mostly important, we need to care about the patients before the operation and after the operation. If you want to avoid, and that's what I'm doing, marginal ulcer, you need, first of all, to check if the patient is not smoking. If the patient is smoking, you need to say them, and I've done that this afternoon. I came half an hour before the beginning of the session from the hospital, and I thought, if you are not quitting smoking, I won't operate on you. So it's your decision. So because if they will smoke, you know the risk of marginal ulcer is very, very high. I check every patient I do endoscopies in all the patients. It's very important to exclude esophagitis. There was a case of gastric esophageal cancer in a patient with a grade C esophagitis. It's not possible here because more than grade B, I do the diverted OAGB in order to protect the patient. So you need to exclude about marginal ulcer also the Helicobacter pylori. If there is Helicobacter pylori, you need to treat it every time before the operation. Okay? And after the operation, I put all my patients in 1 year of PPIs. And 1 year of PPIs avoids a lot of damage of the mucosa, of the jejunal mucosa, avoiding the marginal ulcer. That's very important also. And of course, patients cannot consume alcohol. It's very important also to exclude and to say them, you are not allowed to drink alcohol. And be very careful also about the patients that take non-inflammatory NSAIDs, anti-inflammatory drugs, okay? And also with corticotherapy, because people in corticotherapy are very prone to have marginal ulcer. If you exclude all those issues, and for that you need a strong multidisciplinary team accompanying you and taking care of the patient, and have a strict protocol about following the patient for at least, I don't know, 5 years is our number nowadays. You are getting a low number of marginal ulcers. And I depend there is also something about populations and cultures, because what I see here in Europe is that, and I've seen that for years, in Portugal, Spain, Italy, usually with OHB, the rate of marginal ulcer is very low. And in the north of Europe, France, Belgium, the rate is much higher because they eat differently from us. We eat Mediterranean diet more, and they eat more fat and probably more aggressive nutrition for the mucosa.
Sir,